my creatives, and welcome to another video. So today I'm here to share Dephemerember prompt 16 until 20, and we are jumping right in with prompt number 16, which is wings and labels. And I found a perfect spot in my authored book where I want to put this journaling card that I'm going to create with this. So I have created this double pocket in my authored book, and I have one of the previous prompts on the right side of this pocket, but I also want to have, of course, something on the left side. So I'm going to create something that will fit into that pocket. So I'm using here my own designed kit. I have a Patreon page, and on the Patreon page you can become a principal creative. And you will get a digital kit every month, which is super exciting. I'm very much enjoying creating those kits and discovering a new way of being creative. So I thought I would grab that kit because it is a Christmas themed kit and it has the greens and reds in it. And I have this wings thingy from Tim Holtz set. And now I'm cutting out this cute little girl from this book that I have bought on Amazon, and I'm going to cut her out because I thought she was going to look perfect with these wings. Also, I am going to use these journaling cards as prompts to write about things, and especially about things in December. So December is not my favorite month of the year because I had a rough childhood and Christmas is not a favorite time for me. So I wanted to have a prompt where I could write about how Christmas was for me when I was a child, which was not good, and how Christmas is for me now. It's still not good, I'm gonna be honest. I still don't like it. I still get triggered a lot, but it's growing on me, and I thought I would document this part because even though it's not a happy Christmas memory, it is a December memory that I think needs to be documented in my journal because it is a big part of me and a big part of my life. So that was the thought about that. And then I thought, well, I'm just going to create a cute collage. I'm taking a book page and I use my pocket as a reference to make sure that it would be the correct size. And there you can also see the label that I took out of my kit. And now I'm going to take some other things from the kit. So I have included some ephemera pieces like tickets this time around. And I have this craft tag that I also included, but that doesn't really go. So I'm going into my scrap box. And my scrap box is getting insanely big. So I'm trying to find a lot of ways to use up my scraps, and creating collages is a way that I love to use up my scraps. I also use them as layering pieces in my art journal pages. So when I start art journaling, I love to start with a collaged background. Also, collage really helps me to get into it, but in this way I could use some of these very cool scraps, because this scrap is from a music sheet paper that I have coffee dyed. And now I'm just going to build my collage. So I have these beautiful red wings and this cute little girl. And now I'm going to build from there. So this time around, I first have my focal point, but later on, I also have my focal point first. But how do I say it? My process doesn't always go by a focal point. Sometimes I just want to create something and then I start out with the background and find my focal point later. Sometimes I have my focal point right away. That is this time. And then I will create around it. So I'm just going to create my collage with a lot of scraps, mainly scraps from old books that I bought at thrift stores. I am very much enjoying thrifting. Unfortunately, I cannot go thrifting at the moment because we are in a full lockdown in the Netherlands. But maybe that's a good thing because I have bought tons and tons of books. Because, you go thrifting and then you see a book and you know you can create something cool with it, then it has to go home with me. So I have a lot of books. So maybe it's a good thing that I can't go thrifting. But thrifting is a very good thing at the moment for me and helping me a lot with my burnout. So I'm very much enjoying that. Also, talking about my burnout, I have read your comments on my previous videos. Thank you so much for that. That means seriously so much to me, and I am so grateful for all of you, and your comments make me smile so much and help me through the day sometimes. But I haven't responded to everyone yet because there's so much I can do in a day, and I have quite a few tasks I have to do, and then my brain space is just done. So I will get back to all of you who commented on my videos, and I want to thank you so much for it, because it means the world to me that you comment on my videos. Now back to my collage. I have created my background and my focal point, but I also always like to have a layer in between, and I'm going to achieve that with these postage stamps. So these postage stamps are from the Netherlands, and they are December zegels, which are the postage stamps that are especially for the month of December. So everyone can send out Christmas cards cheaper in the Netherlands, which is a very, very cool thing we have here, which I don't use because I don't like December, so I don't send Christmas cards. But I do very much appreciate that PostNL does this. So these are very old ones, and I am using them to create a layer in between my background and my focal point to have some more interest. And I am purposely layering them behind the girl, so it gives a little bit more depth. I also have one from the US, which is very, very cool, with a sleigh and a horse. And I use that as a more, how do I say that? Not as prominent, because the other ones are quite red, and that fitted really well with the label. I wanted to have 3 postage stamps, but I didn't want to have all of them red, because I already have the red label. So that's what I did. And now I'm just creating a washi cluster. I like to create washi collages, and when I do, I like to tear up my washi and use multiple strips to create my collages, because I think they give a lot of dimension, a lot of impact with a little bit of effort. Now it's time to glue my focal point down, and I didn't glue down the acetate wings because you will see the glue through it. I thought putting glue behind the girl on the acetate wings would be enough. And then I'm going to add some words from my kit which say, "Have faith, better days will come," because they did come. They didn't come when I was young, but they are here now. I have to say that I very much enjoy lockdown Christmas, because it's just me and my husband and our fur babies, Coda and Link. So I'm very much enjoying that, but I can understand that is hard on a lot of people. Going on to prompt number 17, which is fabric and ledger paper. And it has been quite some time in between these prompts. Also, these prompts are from 49 Dragonflies, Barbara from 49 Dragonflies, and Louise Heinzel. Those are the creators behind this wonderful challenge, so please go check them out. They are linked down below in the description box. And I used one of Barbara's freebies to create my own ledger paper and fabric prompt, because I have to be honest, I didn't know what to do with this prompt until I saw her video, and I was like, yes, I know exactly what to do now. So I printed out her freebie multiple times, I have to say, for my stash. And now I am taking that and I remove the edges with my ruler by tearing it down. And I'm grunching it up a little bit, making it a little bit more vintage and more used. Like, it doesn't look so new and pristine anymore. And I'm going to take my tea-dye distress oxide. Now I will change my mind, because at first I thought I liked this light color. But then I grabbed my fabrics, or I looked at them and I was like, no, I do really want to have the darker one. So I'm adding some vintage photo right now. And what I'm doing is I'm inking up the edges, but I'm also going to ink up the creases. I creased the creases multiple times. And I'm also going to do a fun technique that I did in the past, and I totally forgot about it, but then I remembered it because of this prompt, which was super, super cool, is that to crumple up the paper and then ink it up. So I will do that in a little bit. And it was so fun to do. And my purpose with this one was that I wanted to create a journaling spot. So as you saw in the beginning of this prompt, I have the altered book, and it has the triangular pocket with on top an opening and on the bottom an opening. And I wanted to create a journaling spot for in the bottom opening. And I thought this would be the perfect prompt for that. So that is what I did. Here you see me crumpling up the paper and putting on the vintage photo. Now putting it all back together so it would fit back into my pocket, and I'm going to grab my fabric scraps. Also, if you've been following my series, you have seen that my cover changed. You can watch that on my Patreon page. That is linked down below. I covered my book with some beautiful fabric, and I'm using some scraps of that here inside the journal, which I bought while thrifting. So it was a fabric scrap, and I got it very, very cheap. But I thought it was Christmassy and December related without being Christmassy and December related, if you know what I mean. So I thought it would be appropriate to use one of these scraps inside. And I'm also repeating fabrics that I have already used in the journal to create somewhat of a cohesion. I really like to have cohesion in my projects, and even though I'm going to complete these pages as individual pages, I like to have somewhat of a cohesion. And because this is one kind of project, I like to repeat some things in there. So now I'm going to create a fabric cluster. So I'm using some fabric scraps. I also have that fabric ribbon and a little bit of lace. And now I'm going to glue everything down just a little bit. I like it when my fabric is still moving a little bit, so it doesn't have to be glued down completely. Also, I'm also going to do something a little bit different later on, something I have never done before. I was totally inspired by Barbara. I am going to sew my fabric onto my ledger paper. I was totally inspired by Barbara from 49 Dragonflies. It was amazing. I actually very much loved this, and I was so happy that I had the confidence to do this, because this is something I don't feel confident about, and sometimes you just have to do things and don't worry about it. It's just a craft project, right? So yes, our journals mean a lot to us, but sometimes you just have to go for it and just enjoy the process. So I went for it, and I thought, well, I'm going to do what Barbara did, which was so cool, to make the cross stitch. So I did one first, and then I figured out maybe this is not a very good way to do it, but it worked, and I'm very happy that it did. So I made one cross, and then I figured out, well, I need a longer thread. So I'm going to tie it off, and I'm going to grab a new thread to do the other two stitches, because I like things in threes. So of course there had to be 3 stitches, and this is also why I didn't glue it down completely, simply because I knew the stitches would keep it down, and I like things to be moving a little bit in my journal. So here I am for the second try. So I tie a knot in the end of the thread. I am, like I said, I'm doing this for the first time. I am no pro at this. If you have a better way of doing this, please do so. I'm just sharing here my process and my honest process of doing things the first time. I very much enjoy sharing how first time things are for me. And I also very much enjoy sharing my mistakes, because I think that is what happens to all of us. And sometimes you can get overwhelmed by all these YouTube crafters, which I am one of course. And it looks so perfect. Well, it's not perfect. And we are also just trying things out. So here I'm going in for my third stitch, and I was very, very happy with it. I chose the blue thread because my journal is having blue, greens, reds in it, like a December theme, but also a wintry theme. So that's why I thought it would be fun to use a light blue thread for this. And then I thought, yeah, but I didn't tie off the bag properly. It's still a little bit loose, so I'm grabbing these tapes. And these tapes are tapes that I created for a journal project that I haven't shared yet. But I especially tried that out with some alcohol inks on just regular, tape. And I very, very much love the look. Maybe they're a little bit too splotchy to be old tape, but I very much enjoy the look, and I thought, well, I think this is the perfect embellishment to finish everything off, because it is subtle, it looks a little bit vintage, and it's not too much, and it doesn't cover up a lot of my writing space. So I'm putting it on several places, mainly to cover up my threads. And then I thought, but now there's a big blob of tape over there, so maybe it needs a stamp. So I'm grabbing one of my stamps. I also think this is a US stamp with a snowy postage theme, and I'm gluing that over it to create a cluster, and I'm very, very happy with that. So I say that prompt number 17 is also a very, very big success. I very much love this because I would never have created this without the prompts, and that is why I loved the prompts, because I created things that I would never have before. Moving on to prompt number 18, snow and cigarette or tea guard. But I don't have any tea guards. So I watched Barbara, her video, and she made her own. And then I remembered that I have this book. And in this book there are these stickers. And I thought, well, if I cut them out, they would look like cigarette cards. Perfect. So I picked 2 images and I decided that I wanted to create a masterboard with the gazillion scraps that I have. So how I go about creating a masterboard. I have this 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper, and you might think this is a waste, but I have several sheets of this same pattern. I had a friend who gifted me a lot of her 12 by 12 papers that she didn't use or that she didn't want, and she asked me if I wanted them. I said yes, because I can always use them. If I don't use them for myself, I can send them out to other people because I do a lot of Happy Mail. But I have, I think, 20 sheets of the same pattern. It's also red. Red is my challenge color. So there's a slight chance that I would use this. I would maybe use this for a mail to say her, because red is her favorite color, but there's a slight chance that I would use 20 sheets of this. So what I do is I take a piece of pattern paper that I don't particularly like or don't use, and I turn it to the back side, to the white side. I cover the white side because the red would throw me off a lot while creating. I love to have a neutral background to work on so I don't get distracted. I have ADHD, so I have a lot of trouble with things tickling my brain. And red is very, very dominant. So if it would be red completely while I'm working on it, it would be very challenging for me. But if I would turn it around, I can always decide to cover the back up, even though the back is still beautiful. So I am in my scrap box and I'm just picking out random scraps. So I really don't think about this. I think that is the key for masterboards for me, is to not think about it. I'm taking scraps and I'm keeping to a certain color scheme. So I'm keeping to the color scheme that is already in my journal. So I'm using neutrals, I'm using blues, I'm using reds and greens, but that's it. You have seen me glue down now strips from the napkin prompt, from the peacock one. I even kept those strips because maybe they were handy. As you can see now, I am gluing down now papers from Your Creative Studio box and some other scrap pieces that I have found in my scrap box. I find this a very, very relaxing way of creating because I'm not thinking about the end result. I'm just sticking things down. I'm creating kind of a balance, making sure that not the same pieces are besides each other but are on the whole sheet and not only on one spot. But I don't feel pressured to create something beautiful right now because this is only the base. Sometimes some very cool things come out and sometimes they are just great backgrounds you can use to paint on. So here I am using some more of those Your Creative Studio scraps I have used before in another project, and I thought it would be wonderful for this project because they have snowflakes, so a winter theme, but mostly I'm using neutral colored scraps. I'm using now some packaging from a bookstore. Yes, a bookstore here where I live locally, and they have these red letters on that brown packaging paper. So I thought red letters would be very nice on this particular project. And I would have never used that side of the paper if it wasn't for a masterboard. So I'm very excited to use these things and surprise myself with what comes out. Here you have some more teeny tiny scraps from previous ones. I also create the Snow Woman tag with a piece of that one. I have some coffee dyed packaging that I'm gluing on, some book pages, but these really are just scraps. So this is from a magazine, and I have used the image in an art journal, and there was this strip left over that I cut off, so I put it in my scrap box because black and white neutral strips are always a very good thing to keep. So this is just me gluing, and I highly recommend you just go sit down with your scraps, pick a color theme, because I do think that is very important. If you don't want it to be a hot mess, keep 2 neutrals and maybe 1 or 2 colors. Also to keep it maintainable for yourself, because if you get too much colors, it will probably get a little bit chaotic, which would also be nice, don't get me wrong, but for me this is what works, because then I can kind of organize my scraps and I know everything will fit together, as you can see here. This is a strip of paper from a journal that I have cut off. I'm using more of that sticker paper from a Your Creative Studio box. I have used some book text paper, which I colored with some ecolines for another project I did way back. Some music sheet paper, some scrapbook paper scraps. It doesn't really matter. Everything goes, and just be happy sticking stuff down. It's super relaxing, especially for me now in a burnout. This is one of my favorite go-tos. I have created 5 other masterboards, I believe. 5, yes. And this is what I do when I feel overwhelmed but want to be creative. I just grab a sheet of paper I don't care about and I stick stuff down, and you get amazing backgrounds by it. So I will share with you what the end result is after I cut it up. I'm also going into my postage stamp book, and I'm going to grab some postage stamps. So these are also December ones from the Netherlands, so they all have the same color theme, and I thought they would look great on this page. I have another series that I'm using right now, and I'm just arranging them so they were spread a little bit evenly on this page, because I don't think about where I'm going to cut this paper. That will be completely random, and I think that is the fun of it, if you are going to cut it up completely random, because you are going to cut on places you would have never cut if you would have known. So I'm cutting off the excess right now, and then I'm going to grab a stamp. This is a Tim Holtz stamp, a text stamp, and I'm going to use some blue ink, some archival ink, because I do want to have it permanent, because I don't know what I'm going to do afterwards. So I'm making sure that I will have all possibilities still open, and I'm just randomly stamping this on my page, also making sure this is another layer and making sure that everywhere it's a little bit balanced. I'm going in with 2 other stamps, and these are from Dina Wakley. These are the circle patterns, and these are one of my favorite stamps. And I'm using a shadow gray ink to get that hatched one on my page. And as you can see, I do 2nd and 3rd generation as well, sometimes even more. It depends on how many stamps are already on my page. I also grabbed this one, the scribbly circle with a coffee color, because I have used brown tones and neutral tones in earth tones in my masterboard. I thought this would fit as well. And here you can see I also make sure that I stamp off the paper, because that creates depth, and it's a very nice trick to create a pattern, so it looks like a pattern or a completely new layer on top of your masterboard. Now I'm happy, and it is time to cut down my paper, and I am randomly making sizes. So when I create a masterboard, usually I want to have 1 4x6 card out of it, and then the rest is just, and 2 3x4s, and the rest is just whatever. So I have put measurements on 3 inches and 9 inches, and I don't know where it's going to cut through. Then I have put one at 4 inches, and now I'm going to put one at 3 inches from that 4 inches because I thought it would look nice. There's nothing more I thought about that. Then I thought this one was a little bit too big. So I decided to cut it in half because I also have these top pieces. And I'm going to add another mark at 2.5 inches and make a mark. And I think, yeah, I'm pretty happy with these sizes. So this will be. I cut them with my scissors because sometimes I use pretty thick cardstock on this and my paper trimmer doesn't like it. So I use my scissors for this. You can also use your paper trimmer if you want to, but you can also use an X-Acto knife if you want to. And here I am showing you the end results. The beauty of these masterboards is that you can also turn them around every way that you want to. And I absolutely love how they turned out because I would have never picked these ways to cut them. I mean, I even cut through stamps, but it looks so cool. So I very, very much enjoy this technique and they create wonderful, wonderful backgrounds. This one looks finished. I mean, this could be just a finished piece, right? So I'm grabbing my two quote unquote G cards or cigarette cards because of course they're not really. And I am going to find one of the cards that would fit my focal point. And that is just a matter of taste, whatever you feel like it fits, because some things are meant to be. I don't know how to explain this, because for me it's a very intuitive process, yeah, that is what I do. So I picked these two cards. I picked the 4x6 one and I think a 3x4 one for this, and I inked everything up. And now it is time to finish my decorations. So these are beautiful background pieces, and if you would glue everything down now, it would be great. But I wanted to do a little bit extra. So I have these clear stickers from AliExpress, and I thought they would fit my wintry theme. And to bring a little bit of the green into my cards, I thought it would be fun to use these stickers. So that is what I'm doing, and I'm very happy that I did so because I think it really finished them off. Now, these stickers are sometimes very, very hard to work with. First of all, they are dramatic to peel off the backing. And then second of all, they can get very, very flimsy. Now these are acetate, so they're a little bit easier. But if they are washi stickers, they will roll up on themselves. So what I like to do is to cut off a piece of that acetate backing and stick it down on a place that I want to have it. And then take off the rest, as you saw me do. I will do that again for the other card if you missed it, but that is what I like to do, so it gives me a lot more control. Now I'm taking a little bit of thread from my sewing machine, some olive green thread to create a little bit more texture, and I'm just going to glue that down under my card. Like I said, I like it when things move on my journal pages or on my embellishments, so I'm not feeling enticed to glue down the whole thread. I also think it will be a big mess if you're trying to put glue on such a thin thread. But this is how I like to do it. Now, of course, this is not complete without a dooley border. As you know, I love to do dooley borders. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding a dooley border around the quote-unquote cigarette or tea card and all around my project because it feels finished to me. You can also do this with a sewing machine, but if you don't have a sewing machine or don't feel like putting it through your sewing machine, this is a very good way of adding a border like this. Now here I'm snipping off a little bit of the acetate backing and I'm going to place it on my card. Also, it helps a lot if not everything is sticky, because then you have a little bit more wiggle room, especially these stickers stick down immediately and then they're stuck down. So you have to be sure where you want to put them because taking them off is not possible. As you can see here, it was a bit of a struggle to get that acetate piece back off, but in the end it worked out very, very well. And I very much enjoyed this. Now it is time to grab a bit more thread because I like to add certain embellishments again and again to create a little bit more of a cohesion. So they fit together like companions, but they are not the same. putting down my little winterkoninkje, which is a Dutch word for this bird. I don't know what the English word is. And adding down my last sticker to complete my collage or my focal point. I'm cutting off the excess. I pulled the thread while I was doing this, so the thread was in a way that I didn't like it. So I pulled up the image a little bit and I put the thread under it in a way that it would stay on the card. And after that I was happy with it. Then I decided to also do a doodly border around this bird, of course, because the other one had a doodly border. Now this one had to have one too, right? And I'm also doing that on the outside and on the image itself to draw your attention to it, but also help to, keep your eye inside the card instead of outside of the card. Now, after I was done, it will be impossible for me to journal on that red. I explained to you that red is very, very, very dominant to me. So I took one of my coffee dyed receipts. These are new receipts I bought just because of my junk journaling things. And I have this lined paper that I also coffee dyed. And I'm going to put that on the back of these cards to give myself a little bit of a journaling spot. Because I'm a firm believer of journaling. And maybe you think your life is boring. It is not, because every year a lot of things change, and you don't necessarily notice that they change, but they do change. So I think journaling is a very, very important thing to do if you want to memory keep, but also for me and my mental health, it is a very, very important. Journaling is one of the most important things I can do for my mental health to make sure that I keep in line and don't fall down the rabbit hole, so to speak. So I will probably journal not only happy things, because you also don't have to journal only happy things. You can journal whatever you want. It's your journal. But that means that I need to have some journaling spots. Now, I totally forgot about the snow prompt. So I did this a lot later. I did put it after this in the video, but I did do this hours later, because then I remembered, there was the snow prompt. And I laughed so hard about myself. But how I fixed that is with some gesso, and I splattered that on top of my cards. Prompt number 19 is stamp and page tab, and I am going to create some fabric page tabs with this wonderful stamp set that Ezra gifted me. Thank you so much, Ezra. It was perfect. The size was perfect. It was amazing. So I am stamping these cute little deer, and they are so cool. And I am creating 5 page tabs because I thought the 3 was a little bit too little for my book. But I need uneven numbers, so then 5 is next. So I'm going to stamp out 5 there. And I'm tearing them out and inking them up with vintage photo. And they will be the focal points of my tabs. Now here you see my scraps of fabric that I've been using for this project. And I'm going to tear down 5 strips. So I'm going to have 3 of these green strips and 2 of these red strips, because I'm going to fold my fabric strips around my page. I also thought it would be fun to use fabric this time. Fabric is a newfound love for the ones that haven't been following me. I recently discovered my love for fabric. I thought if fabric would stick out of my journal, it would not crumple up. So that is why I picked fabric. And I think I will very much like that. What I'm going to do next is I'm going back into my scrap box, and I found 3 types of scraps. I found this music sheet one, I found some text paper and a map paper. And I'm going to make sure that every page tab has that type of scrap. So every page tab will have a music sheet paper, a text paper and a map piece. And because they all have different sizes and different colors and different ways that I teared them, it will be a lot of fun and give a lot of interest without taking away from the deer. So here I ripped up 5 pieces of everything, and I'm trying a little bit out with that bottom one how I want everything to be. And I very much like it because it gives a lot of depth and a lot of interest, especially the map one because it is vertical and it breaks up the whole part a little bit. I was very excited about this. I decided to ink up everything, so all the scraps are inked up, and after that I am going to assemble my page tabs. So every page tab will be assembled the same way. Bottom, book text page, then second will be music sheet paper, then third will be the map page, then the fabric, and the deer will go on top. So what I'm doing here is I'm using my art glitter glue, and I am using the top down method to glue everything down and making sure, or trying to keep everything on the same place, so it's still on the way that I like it. And now I'm going to show you how they will go in my journal. So the deer will be on top of the page, but the fabric will stick out. So here I will put all of my page tabs that I have created this exactly same way as I did with the first one on places that I want to have them. So I'm going to alternate between red and green, and here I'm showing you how all of them will look on a page. Now everything in my journal is still loose and free for creating because I want to complete my pages later on. Now, prompt number 20 is a frost flower and number or sentiment, and I used Barbara's freebie again because I was too lazy to create my own. I have to be completely honest. I was too lazy to create my own frost flower. So I was so happy that Barbara created this freebie, and it fitted perfectly with my belly band. It was perfect. It was made to go there. So I was super excited. So I just printed this on some regular printer paper, and now I am edging the edges with some distress oxide. I'm going to back this paper with one of the papers that I already used before on the snow tea card, cigarette card, because the white is just too white on the back and I want to have some nice journaling places. And after I did that, I will go on the lookout for a focal point. So it's really fun because I have all these books, and I thought, I opened this book and then I saw this guy on the sleeve. I thought he would be perfect. His size was perfect. He looks wintry. He looks, like a fun little guy to have in my journal. So I decided it would be a lot of fun to have him as a focal point. But if I would put him on a page like this, it would feel like he was floating. So I'm going to give him a little bit of ground to stand on. And first of all, I'm going to use one of the scraps of backing one of the other cards. Then I found this doily in my scrap bin and some other pieces. Here you have a little piece of me trying out my sewing machine. I tried out several stitches on scraps of paper, and I kept all of that because they are great collage pieces. So I decided that would be a nice ground for him. I also found some other AliExpress clear stickers that I've in my stash since forever. That would fit the branch that he is holding, and I thought would complete my collage. So once I was happy, I'm going to glue down my doily with some tape. I like to use tape for my doily because when you try to use glue, it will become a mess. And glue comes through the doily, and I don't have a lot of good experiences with using glue with doilies. So I like to use my tape runner. I then edge everything again with my distress oxide, and I'm going to build my ground for him because it feels less weird if he's floating. I'm putting my flower things, I don't know what they're called, back behind him. But what I did before with cutting half the acetate, this is a very helpful trick, especially because I want to have the branches exactly behind his back. I could stick down the top part of these flower things and make sure that the branches would be exactly behind his foot. So after I glued him down, there was still a little bit missing. Of course, I also needed to do the numbers or sentiment, and I chose the numbers. I found these big numbers, and then I also recently bought these postal things. And the funny thing is, I picked Leeuwarden and Amsterdam as places. I live in Friesland, in Heerenveen, so that's the capital is Leeuwarden. And I have lived in Amstelveen, and the capital is Amsterdam of that province. So I thought it was a fun little thing I did. I am adding a little bit of washi tape to give them a little bit more ground to make sure that they don't feel like they're floating. And then I found my washi dots. This card needed washi dots, and that completely finished it off. I had the perfect shade of blue. I was so excited. I absolutely loved it because this was the final touch that I needed on this card. Adding my date, and then I am ready to put it under my belly band with this bird. And then I saw he will peek through. It was amazing. It was perfect. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I thank you so much for watching. I will comment back to all of you who comment, but I need a little bit more time with me and my burnout. I hope you understand. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, please give me a like because that will help me, and subscribe. Until next time. Bye.